Now, second video this evening, um, and I'd like to ask people to think a little bit about this situation with Jehu. Go back and read the scripture itself and see how Jehu was given a task and failed in it through his own arrogance, thinking that he really knew it all. There's another thing that I'm going to bring up. I had, as you know, removed a couple of videos. I'm going to put them back on, but I'm also going to present the evidence for what I had said in, well, in the case of homosexuality. I indicated that it was a birth defect and might be healed by medicine, and some people thought that was offensive or insulting. So I'm going to present the evidence for it, and talk a little bit more about some of these things. I am in the process of writing a book now on the neurobiology of sin to show how the mind works mechanically also in the things that we do. Now, I realize that there's a kind of an ideology that's moralistic rather than about morality. And moralism and the oversimplification of human problems and human conditions is one of the most cruel, brutal, and savage things that we can possibly do to other human beings. We dehumanize people and try actually even to strip them of their personhood and their humanity through our ideologies. It's like saying a person commits some kind of a crime where, say, nobody's killed, there's no armed robbery or something like that. We've got to lock them in prison, you see, because they have to be punished. Whereas our first thought should be, how can the person be rehabilitated? Would it be better not to lock them in prison, but to put them in some kind of program and maybe even a minimum security penitentiary where there's a real program for rehabilitating some people? It can't be done with all people, of course. But there are many cases where imprisoning a person has precisely the opposite effect of what we want to accomplish with them. And I'm thinking of so many actions and activities that people take where there's a very clear-cut situation within the brain that can be seen, can be studied, and we can try to correct it. I'll give you a couple of examples. One of them, of course, kleptomania. Now, as you know, many kleptomaniac people who steal regularly, very often wealthy people who don't need anything and have plenty of money to buy things with, and sometimes they end up even bringing things back to the store and apologizing, but have a compulsion to steal. Now, we had a long program at the University of British Columbia in which precisely this illness was dealt with. And in the process, it was seen, of course we have functional MRIs, PET scans, CAT scans, and all these other things. And it was seen that in a particular part of the brain of a kleptomanic person, a lot of glucose was rushing to that part of the brain, and it was overfiring. Now, after 3 years of therapy, the brain scan showed the glucose wasn't building up in that part of the brain, and the rapid firing wasn't taking place any longer. This is the benefit of psychoanalysis and psychologists as well. Psychiatrists, of course, deal with medicine. Psychologists deal with a problem like this situation with kleptomania. And so there are very often rehabilitative ways. And of course, prayer, the healing prayer, and the divine services are a great support to all these processes. And this is one of the places where we fail when we think we know it all and oversimplify the human condition. Humanity, the human person, is very complex. And oversimplification is what we do when we dislike somebody, hate somebody, or when we simply desire to be ignorant and we think that ignorance is somehow holy, sacred, or divine. And I'm going to bring this up again when I'm talking about this other problem we've been talking about. I'm going to say, though, rather boldly right now, and I know that there are gay people who watch these videos. Gay pride parades are a form of idolatry. They're not only a form of idolatry, but they're degrading and dehumanizing. They debase humanity, they debase the human person, they debase and degrade everyone who participates in them, and lower their status maybe a little below human. Because the way of projecting themselves there is really something like Dionysiad or something, you know, the ancient Greek pagan ritual where people would get themselves totally drunk and do all kinds of wild things. It is a form of idolatry. And idolatry not just in relationship to God, but idolatry in relationship to humanity and to their own personhood. And it's something that, first of all, it should never be allowed because they really constitute a form of pornography. I mean, who else ever tries to have a public appearance in the middle of the city on the main thoroughfares in a parade where people are dressed only in their, what do you call those, jockey shorts, yeah, and sometimes even less. And with scenes of bondage and deformity and all kinds of things like that. This is one of the most revolting things that has come to pass in the last century. And I think, first of all, the people who participate in it should think of what it says about them and about their psychological condition and their mentality. And the cities that permit them should think about whether they would allow other citizens to wander down the street dressed that way. This is really not just, I'm not going to say a sin against God. I mean, some of you viewers are atheists and you wouldn't care about that. But it's a sin against humanity. It's a sin against the personhood of human beings. And I think that everyone involved in those things should take a good, clear second thought about it and think what it's doing and saying in terms of humanity and human personhood. Mind you, I don't think fundamentalist Christians are often much better when it comes to humanity and personhood, because I think televangelists are the people who degrade, debase, corrupt, undermine Christianity more than anyone on the face of the earth. And this new prayer warriors thing that started in the United States, I often said there was a Taliban Christianity, and lo and behold, there's this manifestation of this new Taliban Christianity in these prayer warriors, who I believe are going to end up being perfectly capable of terrorism, thinking that they're becoming martyrs, just like Taliban suicide bombers think that they're becoming martyrs. Christians can become just as evil, just as wicked, just as destructive, just as violent. Jehu was commissioned by Elisha to clean up the idolatry in the northern kingdom, in Israel. And he turned out to be a vicious homicidal maniac who had a lust for power. And this is precisely what these new Christian prayer warriors are all about. They're just Jehu revisited. And I think we're going to see that the Arab world, the Muslim world, will soon be pointing to Christianity and saying, aha, and you accused us. And so I think that this kind of Christianity is also degrading, debasing, a sin against humanity, a sin against the human person, a sin against everything that Jesus Christ taught, and an idolatry in the face of God.